Good afternoon and welcome, dear colleagues and friends, dear ACM family. I'm Romana Vlasic, Head of Convention Bureau and International Markets Development at Dubrovnik Tourist Board, and also Vice Chairperson of ECM Meetings Industry Steering Group. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's Meetings Industry webinar. So, travel and tourism is among the most affected sectors by COVID-19 pandemic, and we are still facing travel restrictions around the world. Probably the meetings industry has been hit the most, but thanks to the smart solutions and digital technologies, the industry survived in a new, different, and innovative ways. Meetings turn to virtual and hybrid, and both are going to stay, I suppose, as a new component of business meetings in the future as well. As the vaccination is rolling out, we are more confident that face-to-face meetings are coming back, definitely with focus on high health and safety protocols. Destinations are unfortunately back almost to 0 point. There is a huge need to rethink and restart tourism as we want, but having in mind that it is crucial to communicate and promote the safety message on the top, building reputation of safe meetings and events. How will the meetings industry recover? What can convention bureaus do? And how we are adjusting to the new normal? We will talk about the impacts of pandemic on convention bureaus in Europe. This webinar will discuss the results of a major survey of European convention bureaus exploring how they have been affected by COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 and 2021. 134 convention bureaus representing countries, cities, and towns from all over Europe participated in a survey by Mice Knowledge, describing how they will have adapted to the global health crisis, as well as the pandemic's impacts on their destination marketing activities. This webinar will provide numerous examples of how European convention bureaus are using innovation and inventiveness to prepare themselves for a post-pandemic world, and will be of interest to anyone with responsibility for promoting their destinations in the international MICE market. I'm delighted to introduce our speaker, Dr. Rob Davidson, and panelists Tobias Salvadori, Director of Italian Convention Bureau, and Cristina Castellan, Convention Manager at the Nürnberg Convention Bureau. Dr. Rob Davidson is the Managing Director of Mice Knowledge, a London-based consultancy specializing in research, education, and training services for the meetings and events industry. His main areas of expertise are conferences and incentive travel, and he has written 7 books on these themes, including his latest publication, Business Events. He has carried out research projects for a number of major MICE organizations, and he's regularly invited to speak at international conferences on conference industry trends. Rob also teaches as a visiting professor in 3 European universities, where he educates event management and tourism management students every year. So, Rob, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, dear Romana, for such a nice introduction, and greetings to everyone following this webinar today or watching the recorded version. Hello from London, where the sunshine is trying to come out, but it's been a terrible month of May. I would like to begin by thanking all of you who participated in my research at the beginning of this year. I know that the people on our panel today very willingly participated, and so did 130 other people. So thank you to you all, because without your participation in my survey, my questionnaire, this research would not have been possible. At the beginning of the year, I was beginning to wonder about my friends working in European convention bureaus. And my big question was, how are they managing? How are they surviving and coping with this huge challenge of the pandemic and the impacts of the pandemic, and how are the convention bureaus adapting their services to deal with this strange new situation. So I went to the usual people and said, are you doing anything? Are you doing research into this? No, we're not, no one. So I thought, okay, Rob, it's over to you. And therefore, that was the birth of my idea of doing a survey of convention bureaus in Europe. So it was really exciting. It was very, very pleasant as well, because it gave me a reason to reach out to my friends working for convention bureaus, and first of all, to see how they were, which was the most important thing of all, and then to invite them to kindly answer my questions. And the answers were incredible. People gave a lot of detail and insights into how the pandemic was affecting them and what they were doing to adapt their services to the new situation. And in the next 15-20 minutes, I want to share with you the big headlines from the results of this survey. So as Romana said, 134 of you responded, and that was from a total of 33 different European countries. Those ranged from the big countries like Germany, the UK, Sweden, with all its convention bureaus, to the tiny nations like the Faroe Islands and Iceland. Everyone was very willing to participate. So I think I have a good overview of the situation in small convention bureaus, large convention bureaus, regional, local, and national convention bureaus in the continent of Europe. So first of all, I wanted to know about changes in the resources which convention bureaus have, because convention bureaus can't do anything without people to work in them, and of course without funds, finance to support their activities. Well, first of all, looking at the staff of convention bureaus, of course, in our continent, the vast majority of convention bureaus are very small. If we take a convention bureau like Opatia, hello Goran, it's basically Goran. To the large convention bureaus of the major capital cities with 15, 20 members of staff. The picture which emerged was one of losing staff. And in terms of numbers, in the year between February 2020 and February 2021, overall the convention bureaus, a total of 77 full-time staff were lost, and 24 part-time staff were no longer working for the convention bureau. Now, I shouldn't say lost, because what became clear is that many of those people who were no longer working for the convention bureau were going to come back. Their absence was temporary. Some of them had been allocated to different jobs in the local authority. Some people would say more urgent jobs. And here I have to say another hello, this time to Serena Talarico, one of my ex-students now working for the London Convention Bureau. And during the last few months, Serena has been working in vaccinating men and women against the virus, a very, very important job. So well done, Serena, but you are typical of a lot of people in convention bureaus who were given other jobs to do during the pandemic. So fewer staff, but don't forget, we're expecting many of them to come back. In terms of funding, well, let's look first of all at public funding, the money which convention bureaus get from the local government or the national government. Also down, 1 in 3 convention bureaus suffered reductions in their funding from their local government or their national government, 1 in 3. Some of those cuts were large. but not many. I can say that really only 2 convention bureaus suffered cuts in funding from public money over 50%. The vast majority of the cuts were 20%, 10%, smaller, but nevertheless significant. Now, looking at the reasons for those cuts, of course, convention bureaus depend a lot on public funding in many countries, and there were so many demands on public funding that the priority was given to health, for example, naturally, rather than destination marketing. Interestingly, some of the reasons given for the cuts were simply that convention bureaus were spending less. For example, not going to international exhibitions meant that they were spending less money on travel and transport and accommodation and so on. However, cuts are cuts and no one wants them. And again, we are hoping that these will be only temporary. I think what was more surprising was that 1 in 6 convention bureaus actually got increases in their funds from their governments, from the local government, municipality, national government, increases 1 in 6. And in many cases, what you told me was that this increase was a compensation for the money, the funding which you lost from your partners and your members. That's what I'd like to speak about next, because of course, partners and members have had a devastating year because of the pandemic. Your hotels, your PCOs, interpreters have all suffered greatly, and you don't need me to remind you of that. 75% of the convention bureaus in the sample of 134 saw cuts in private sector funding. Now, many of those cuts were, I would say, voluntary, in the sense that convention bureaus reduced or completely suspended membership fees or fees from their partners because of the pandemic, showing an understanding of the situation of your members or your partners. So a lot of those cuts were not altogether unexpected. So what I'd like to look at now are some of the activities that you do and how those activities were affected by the pandemic, starting with bidding, for example, which most convention bureaus do, of course. In most cases, this continued as normal, which isn't surprising, really, because associations were still issuing calls for proposals, expressions of interest, and so on, for the simple reason that, as you know, especially international associations, have a long lead time. They are planning for 2025, 2026, and therefore those bids were going on as normal in the hope or the expectation that things will look more normal by then. We're all hoping for that. But 20 convention bureaus did stop their bidding activities. Some convention bureaus used the time last year to improve their bidding, the quality of their bidding. We saw convention bureaus making improvements to their bid books. We saw other convention bureaus digitalizing their bidding process. So you can see that convention bureaus were not lazy or idle, but making use of the time, including in bidding. Websites as well, you all have them. And we saw wide-scale redesigning of websites, updating of websites, and more and different information put onto the websites. Of course, information on COVID itself, the pandemic, your health and safety protocols. Many of you introduced those elements into your websites, but also information on hybrid opportunities in the destination, venues with those facilities for hybrid, and other creative ideas. One convention bureau said that they had created a dedicated sub-website for hybrid opportunities. Another said that they had introduced the ability for meeting planners to search for green venues and green activities for incentive travel and so on. Moving on to press trips, fan trips, well, down, of course, as you would expect. 30% of convention bureaus said that they had suspended those activities completely. Other convention bureaus reported that they were continuing, but individual fan trips or very small groups of meeting planners invited to the destination, obviously for health and safety. 20% of the convention bureaus reported that they had moved to virtual fan trips, online fan trips. One convention bureau even said that they had had a hybrid fan trip with a small group in person, in reality, in the destination, and others following it online. We saw a lot of creative ideas about fan trips. A few convention bureaus reported that they were having these hybrid or virtual fan trips and sending out gift boxes with products from the destination in advance of the trip, so that people participating online could eat a snack from the destination and so on, and get more of the feel of being there. Advertising, down, of course. Most convention bureaus said that either they were doing no advertising or they had never done advertising. 20% said that they had reduced it greatly, and the reason given was, of course, uncertainty in the market. So not a good time for the MICE press with all of those adverts being withdrawn. On the other hand, when we look at your responses to your social media activities, we saw an explosion of activity there, significant increases in the use of the social media for staying in touch with your stakeholders, keeping them informed of innovations, updates in the destination. And the big winner of all the social media platforms was LinkedIn. That was by far the winner. New accounts opened by many convention bureaus on LinkedIn, and using LinkedIn in imaginative ways. One convention bureau reported that they were using the LinkedIn events function to run webinars for their stakeholders based on LinkedIn. So a lot of imagination and creativity, smarter use, I would say, smarter use of the social media. Not such a good story when we look at exhibitions. You know, we love them. That's where we get together. That's where we see each other. Hugs, kisses, handshakes. We are missing those things so much. And let me tell you, when this is all over and exhibitions become face-to-face again, I will be collecting all those hugs that I've been promised in the last 15 months. Anyway, of course, what we saw was a movement towards virtual exhibitions for our industry. IBTM World Virtual, Planet IMEX, of course, and 45% of the respondents said that they had participated in one or more of those virtual exhibitions. So that was the picture regarding exhibitions. An interesting picture regarding ambassador programs now. A success story. I think this has been a year. It was already happening that more and more convention bureaus were looking at ambassador programs and realizing how powerful those are for winning events, especially international association events for your destinations. So they continued, of course, many in virtual digital form. We saw initiatives like virtual award ceremonies for ambassadors, but very encouraging. We saw a lot of new programs being launched or planned or in the pipeline. So I think that we can see that those programs are going to grow. It wasn't an easy year for those of you with a lot of doctors or medical ambassadors. Well, for obvious reasons, those men and women were very busy with other priorities. Market research went up. Many of you were using your time to boost your market research, more investment in that. But interestingly, a significant change of focus towards research into what many of you called proximity markets. So less on the international association side and much more on regional, national events. So that is something I think was a trend which we're going to see continuing. Getting towards the end now, support for meeting planners, services that you provide for the meeting planners in your destinations. That changed, of course, with, I think, convention bureaus adopting a more educational role, being seen or desiring to be seen as a hub of knowledge for the destination. So much more guidance on, of course, health and safety, hybrid opportunities, more education, content marketing, blogs, webinars, podcasts. I think this is a significant change of the role of convention bureaus, which I believe we'll come back to when we look at your questions. So coming to an end now, I asked you all what changes you anticipated, because I was interested to know about the future, not only the past 15 months, but the future and what you are all expecting. Some of those changes you can anticipate from what I've already said. Much more use of digital tools for your marketing, a trend which was already coming on board, but which has been really accelerated in the past year. Many of you are, I should say, resigned to the fact that hybrid meetings will become very significant in the future. I believe that's true. I've spoken a lot in the past year about the impact of the pandemic. And I think that even when the borders reopen and we can travel freely again, I do believe that many people will prefer to attend online for reasons of health and safety. Perhaps they feel a bit vulnerable still, reasons of economy. Remember, a lot of people have lost livelihoods, salaries because of the pandemic. And I do believe a lot of people will look at their pockets before deciding to choose to spend 2,000 euros on a nice trip to an international conference. So hybrid is here to stay. And most of you accepted that. Focus on more regional proximity markets. I think that's where many of you are putting your energies and will continue to put your energies. Interestingly, one phrase which came up a lot was multi-hub conferences. And those are interesting. Rather than a single hub in your city, having several cities with groups of participants, perhaps from that country, assembling in a venue and following the event online while one of those venues is happening in real life. Multi-hub venues. I think that's one to watch for the future. Some of you put a positive spin on those hybrid and multi-hub meetings. And actually, some of you are very optimistic about the fact that those huge European conferences, the European Cardiology Association with how many? 32,000 participants. For most of you, that was far too big. I love Opatia with all my heart, but you will never get 32,000 participants in that lovely city. However, if those large events become partly virtual and become hybrid, well, suddenly they may start looking at smaller destinations with smaller venues. So a lot of you are quite positive about this move. Of course, an ongoing trend will be attention to health and safety, cleanliness. I think probably you've heard many times in the last year that clean is the new green. Not that green is going to go away, of course, because again, in the report, many of you said that was a growing trend, which you would support. But I think finally that what many of you were telling me is that, of course, in person, face-to-face, live events will continue, but that there will be higher expectations from those meetings. If people are traveling and coming to the destination, spending time and money there, their expectations of the event and the destination and you, their expectations are going to be higher. They're going to want more from the event, better networking, better authenticity, and less of the kind of superficiality that we all recognize in some of the events that we go to. Final word from Rob. On a high note, 76% of the convention bureaus who responded said that they were either optimistic or very optimistic about the future. 24% said that they were either neutral or quite pessimistic about the future. It would be really interesting to do the same survey next year, but I hope I don't have to, because I hope that by then we will be back to a reality which we recognize. The reason given for the optimism, your resilience, strengths, knowledge, and your ability to adapt. Fingers crossed. Thank you very much for your attention right now.
Thanks, Rob. This is really great, realistic overview of the situation and impacts of the COVID pandemic to the convention bureaus. But you know what I like? I see a dose of optimism in your speech. So this is something what we are looking for, to optimism, and just to start with meetings, especially with face-to-face meetings, because this is all about meetings industry. In the meantime, of course, we accepted digital, virtual, hybrid, whatever it takes, but we are resilient and we will adapt, I'm sure, very good. So hearing to all this, what you were talking about, one question pops up. Has the pandemic had any positive impacts on the work of convention bureaus? What do you think?
Well, at this stage, I think I would like to hear from our colleagues on the panel, Romana, because I know what I think.
Yes.
And I think that, yeah.
I'd like to invite also Tobia from Italian Convention Bureau and Christina from Nuremberg Convention Bureau. Welcome.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone from Nuremberg.
Yes. So what do you think? Has the pandemic had any positive impacts on our work in convention bureaus? So, Christina.
Christina.
Okay. Yes, indeed. I see a couple of positive impacts, and I'm always optimistic. So I believe that in every crisis, there is always an opportunity. You only have to seize it. And one thing which really grew better the last year and a half, is the collaboration and the partnerships with our stakeholders, our partners, our colleagues, our members. So everybody, we are talking more openly. We are really working together, and we better understand the special needs of each other. And for us as a CVB, as a convention bureau, we achieved that they are now more aware of the work we are really doing for the destination and for them. And they appreciate more our work. And this is really a big impact for us, because before, sometimes they knew that there is a convention bureau, but what are you doing actually? And right now they're kind of aware what we're doing. This is really, really good for us. And another point which I see is the digital transformation, because Nuremberg as a meeting destination was quite successful for a couple of years. So some of the stakeholders didn't see the need to change something in the business because, well, the hotel beds are full. We are very successful because we have the Nuremberg Messe. And why change something? And we did inform them about the different trends in our industry. And we always tried and repeated what is the new meeting format, for example, the hybrid system. And before they did not listen that good. And now they understood as well that maybe I have to change my business to be part of it in a couple of years still. And we see a big improvement in the quality and the services of the Nuremberg meetings industry, which is really, really good. And I think that prepares us for the future. And these are the main points, I think. Just have a look if I forgot something. Yeah, this is more personally, a personal feeling. So I feel now that our work is more purpose-driven and customer-driven than before. Because since we had the shift from sales and marketing, we now inform our customers better. And we really had to refocus us on our objective, and that feels quite good. And these are the positive impact for us. So.
Yes, thank you, Christina. I absolutely agree with you, because this situation united us, and we found additional strength and motivation to do something better than we did before, because circumstances are quite different now. Tobias, what would you like to say about this
yes,
situation?
thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me to join this webinar. It's always good, and to meet virtually with a lot of people. I'm not quite sure if we can talk about positive impact. I mean, if you ask me, would you have preferred to avoid a pandemic or to have this forced development? I'm not quite sure what the answer would be, but anyway, jokes apart, yes, we had some positive, more than impact, opportunities. This year and a half of pandemic opened up a lot of new opportunities. We were forced to analyze the environment in which we were working, and to start a digital revolution. I totally agree with what Christina was saying. We have to admit that the meetings industry has always been extremely slow in developing itself, especially if we look at digital. If we compare meetings industry to leisure, we are decades behind. Okay, but now, because of the pandemic and because of the impossibility to meet, then starting from big congress organizers that had to shift from a physical only approach to a hybrid approach, or multi-hub, but anyway, seizing a lot of digital technology. Then starting from that, we realized that also in the convention bureau world, we could use that kind of approach. So we, as a national convention bureau, the Italian National Convention Bureau, we are shifting from a physical pattern only to a hybrid promotion strategy. So combining physical events with a much stronger digital presence. And I believe that without the pandemic, without this kind of excuse, I would say, we would have taken a much longer period, a much longer time to have this kind of evolution. We had a real example. I mean, we developed our own digital tool, which will be able to really integrate the events that we really can't wait to restart organizing with the possibility for clients and Italian suppliers to constantly be connected. That's part of our future. So again, as a positive impact, I would say that we were forced to experiment new things that probably I'm not sure if they will work, but at least we are trying, and it's positive.
Yeah, thank you, Tobia. Absolutely, we are forced to change something and to explore. Well, it will work. I'm sure it will work. A lot of things will. So, do you think that convention bureaus are going to be obliged to redefine their fundamental role as a result of the pandemic? So, are we going to change actually how we worked before? Is it now a constant change for the future? Are we going back to the way like we worked before, or we need to adapt in a new way? Tabia.
Oh, okay. Well, when the requirements of the operators in the country, well, in my case, in my country, change, and when the requirements of clients change, then the kind of support and the kind of services and the role of the convention bureau must change. So the answer is yes. How are we going to change? I think, first of all, usually convention bureaus are faster in getting the new trends in the industry, because we talk to each other, because we are extremely careful to what happens at an international level. So if we look at our members, if we look at our colleagues in our country, then the role of the convention bureau of educating operators will be huge. So to allow them to follow the trends and to keep updated.
Yeah.
Then if we look at the client's requirements, of course, now we have to understand, well, we have already understood, it's already clear since February last year, that if you look at the famous criteria of clients to select a destination, they have changed. If accessibility was the first thing that organizers were looking at, now health and safety is criteria number one, and convention bureaus must be a sort of guarantee, and they must educate the destination operators to be compliant to this kind of requirements, and to be able to support clients in getting the most out of the destination, even from a sanitary point. Of course, they cannot be responsible for that, but of course,
absolutely.
The package of information that the convention bureau must provide has become bigger and bigger and more sensitive.
Yes. Thank you. That is exactly what I also think that our role should be, to communicate those all measures, protocols, to have everything on one place, to provide to meetings organizer, PCOs, anyone who thinks about organizing an event in another destinations. Yes, that we will, and requirements are changed. Absolutely, accessibility was on the top. Now it's health and safety, and that will stay for a long time, I suppose. So, Christina, do you think we are going to redefine our role in the future?
Yes, definitely. And I don't even think that it's only a result of the pandemic. It started already before, since I am actually working for the Dubrovnik Tourist Board, the DMO, and already there we have the shift from the destination marketing organization to a management organization. And this is just accelerated by the pandemic. So the German Convention Bureau and the Fraunhofer Institute is conducting a research of future meeting spaces, and they just released the latest report, and they as well are talking about the new role of convention bureaus or service providers in the new ecosystem of events, they're saying. And I can only agree, and I feel the same, that we are switching from this marketing and sales focus we had for a long time, and now we are going to be more managers, ecosystem managers. So we are the local expert, we are the trend scouts, we know best our destination, and we have to do everything and bring the right people together. So we have to manage all the different stakeholders so that the event planners and our stakeholders are coming together and can make the best events. And this is the change in our work. And that's why my job title is not convention sales manager anymore for a couple of years, because I'm just, we just decided not to say sales or marketing, because it isn't just that, actually.
Yes, thank you, Christina. So we have a question from the audience. Christina, stay with us. Do you see an interaction between sustainability issues with pandemics? To what extent?
Yes, there is. Well, I did a lot of research last year, because not only on the meetings industry, but generally. And a lot of experts say that the pandemic can be a result of our sustainable issues, but not one that the meetings industry is in the charge for. But always, I think it is related, but since we bring experts together, I think the meeting industry can be a part of the solution. We have to get the right people to make conferences again. I know that doctors are right now quite busy, but once they are ready to get back, they maybe can find some solution on the medicine side, but as well for sustainability, we have to put an emphasis on that part, even for the meetings industry or for business and economy in general.
Yeah, there will be huge interaction in between different sectors, of course. We have one more question. Rob, I would like to ask you how ambassadors programs are changing.
Okay, well, they're growing, as I said earlier, because people are understanding that they work. And of course, we're all getting, or you are all getting more professional at running these these programs, and motivating the ambassadors, rewarding them. And I think people do realize that they can be very, very effective. So there's been a lot of investment of time and energy into making those programs bring more return on investment, and being much more, I would say, forensic in looking at who are the best people to be ambassadors and how do we get them on board, how do we motivate them and keep them working hard to promote the destination. It's time consuming, it takes resources, but I think that we understand now that it really, really is worth it. And it's kind of pinpointing marketing through individuals who are members of national and international associations. For many years here in the UK, we've had a nice organization called GANG, G-A-N-G, and it's a group of ambassador networking, Great Britain Ambassador Networking Group, GANG. And I had the pleasure of speaking at one of their events a few years ago. And it's an example of a loose grouping of people who meet regularly to share their knowledge, their expertise of ambassador programs. So I think that we can expect these to grow, for the simple reason that they do work well. And personally, I've been involved with a couple of destinations in launching their ambassador programs. With my background in academia, a lot of the ambassadors are professors, so I'm able to speak to professors in a way that they will be motivated to join the ambassador program. But of course, as everyone knows, it's not only a case of joining, but working hard and keeping them motivated to win events for the destination. We're going to see a lot more of them.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, ambassador program is really excellent project, but we all need to work very hard to have really good ambassador program. And I think we will need it now much more than ever, because situation with the meetings industry was not really good. And in whole tourism sector was not good. So now we need to restart and really have around us the best people that can participate and help in that. Tobia, thank you, Rob. Tobia, do you have ambassadors program for Convention Bureau Italia?
Well, ambassadors programs are mainly from local convention bureaus. So if you look at the various local convention bureaus that we have in Italy, yes, the answer is definitely yes. And I can mention a few. I mean, Florence, Milan, Bologna, Riva del Garda, Genova, and quite a few others, Rome, of course. We are now starting our own, let's call it ambassador. It's not quite an ambassador's program. It will be a project called Italian Knowledge Leaders. That's a way to acknowledge all those association people with great influence in their association, but who have not yet brought the Congress to the destination. So, and we are going to support association in their international process. So it's quite different than the usual ambassadors program. So we will do a work. It's a sort of ambassador program beforehand. Yeah. That's what we are going to do. And definitely this project, well, we were already thinking about this. We wanted to start last year. Of course, it wasn't possible to start, but definitely this year, with more time for us, it gave us the opportunity to really focus on this project and to make it start.
Thank you. So let's go back to financial situation in convention bureaus. There have been cuts in financial support for many convention bureaus. How will convention bureaus be able to convince governments and their members, partners, to return to pre-pandemic funding levels? So, Tobia, how is it in the national convention bureau?
Well, I think we have to analyze case by case because all convention bureaus are different in the end. And if I have to report our experience, well, first of all, we are quite an unusual national convention bureau because we are totally private, though fully recognized by a tourist board, and we collaborate a lot with the tourist board and with institutions. But our budget comes from members. We are a member-based organization. Of course, it was tough to keep our financial resources last year and this year. Probably it's worse this year than last year. But I think the answer is pretty simple in the sense that if you work well, then members will be willing to keep supporting the convention.
And recognize their work.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were extremely lucky and clever last year to demonstrate to be there, to continue communicating with our clients, to demonstrate really to be close to our members, and that made them feel encouraged by the presence of the convention. I think that was probably the best thing we did last year. And so I'm so grateful towards our members that they kept supporting us. So if we look at our income coming from members, then yes, we had a decrease, but not that much. What really disappeared was, of course, income from activities, all the events that we used to organize that disappeared all of a sudden. Of course, this year, everyone has budget issues, but again, by constantly being there, by proposing new services, new opportunities, the digital platform I was mentioning before, new project for the association segment, of course, all these new things, of course, make our members realize how important it is to support and to invest in the convention world.
Yeah, thank you. So, Christina, I have a question for you. Apart from the pandemic, what are the other mega trends that are having an impact on the work of convention bureaus?
There are several mega trends we are talking about for a couple of years in the meetings industry already, and we have mentioned some of them in this webinar. So it's definitely sustainability, not only the ecological dimension, but as well the social and economic dimension, especially as social when it comes to diversity, inclusion, and etc. I think this is one of the trends we definitely have to follow and put more focus on. Then digitalization, we already mentioned as well. The new formats, hybrid, how to make the best experience for your guests in hybrid formats. This is the trend we just have started to discover and embrace as well. And there are new technologies, if it's artificial intelligence, I don't know. There's so many things coming up in the next years, and we have to adapt quite quickly because it's getting even faster, the change. And what I see as well is with the safety and security aspect, we have the personal security, but as well the data-driven security with all the hybrid meetings. And one big thing we have talked a lot with our stakeholders is the flexibility in cancellation conditions and everything, and insurance, etc. Because back in the old days, it was quite easy. You know, you can cancel, I don't know, 6 months ahead, whatever. But it's not working anymore because our planning times and periods are way shorter than before. So we have to adapt and find new models in this case as well. These are the main points.
Yeah, great, thank you. And one quick question, yeah?
One thing, I think another trend will be related to internal organization. Following the example of many other kind of corporations or firms, now smart working is becoming something real, something everyone will be using probably for a long time. So also that will change the life of convention bureaus. Probably we will need basically smaller spaces, office spaces. We were just chatting before the start of this webinar, and some of Christine's colleagues are working remotely from their home office, and that will stay. And probably we are going to use this new way of working more than before.
Yes. And one quick question for you. Yes.
Sorry, Romana, I just would like, if I may, to add one more mega trend, which is demographics and the new generation of meeting planners and meeting participants. A lot of my research in the last year has been looking at Generation Z, who are people in their 20s, and what they want from meetings and what they want from destinations as well. And I can tell you that it's very different to even from what Generation Y, who are now in their 30s and 40s, what they want. So I think that this demographic trend towards the youngest generation is something that we should really focus on because what they want is important, and we have to motivate them to come to meetings, to enjoy destinations, rather than do the easy thing, which is to go online. So I would encourage all convention bureaus to listen to their youngest members of staff who are in that age group, because they will soon tell you what Generation Z want from meetings and from the destinations where they happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you said that. Definitely, new generations are coming, and we should approach to them in a different way, and maybe just include them in this world of the meetings industry. Like, well, of course, we will have to combine new technologies, a virtual hybrid with face-to-face, but that is actually new era of meetings industry. So we will just restart, and this year of COVID pandemic just gave us in a way some time to rethink and restart the meetings industry, and not only the meeting industry, of course. So just let me see, just one comment from Bettina. Trends and creating long-term positive impact from events legacy closely linked with sustainability requires new measurements. Then another comment, moving away from economic impact and room nights KPIs. Yeah, well, I don't think that PCOs, hotels, destinations will move from economic impact, but that is quite important for them. But for us as a convention bureaus, should be a wider theme to think about. So let's see how much time we have. We are about closing. So I would like to thank very much, Rob, for sharing with us your interesting and very useful research regarding the impacts of the pandemic on convention bureaus in Europe. Also, thanks to our panelists, Tobia and Christina. That was really, really great for sharing your point of view on these topics of meetings industry and convention bureau recovery. But since I'm a member and vice chairperson of ECM Meeting Steering Group, I would like to take this opportunity to shortly announce ECM Summer School Virtual Edition 2021, taking place from 24th to 26th of August. The summer school is really great educational event. I attended it as well for all meetings professionals working in convention bureaus, hotels, PCOs, DMCs, airlines, venues, exhibition centers, and all the suppliers related to the meetings industry. Also, I would like to emphasize ECM Mentors Program, which is created together with industry partners to generate exchange and knowledge between new and advanced meeting professionals. So this is about this new generation coming, and we have a really excellent voluntary one-year program where young professionals are able to ask to learn from advanced meeting professionals. So new edition of mentor program will follow soon. So I would like to thank ECM. Julie, thank you for all coordination, and Flavie for organizing this meetings industry webinar. Hope the audience find interesting the results of the survey of European Convention Bureaus and how we have to adapt and changed our destination marketing activities. We are in the new era of the meetings industry, but we are resilient, strong enough to restart successfully. So thank you very much all for joining this webinar. Until next time, all the best to all of you. Thank you.